Okay, so right now we're in France, but right next to us is the border. So now we're gonna start walking over into Italy. And now we're in Italy, oh my God! And now we're gonna flip around. Now we're gonna flip around, so there we go. There, Italy, buongiorno! Hi, my name is Hank Lucart. You might know me from my video, Meet Me in the Alps, where 5 friends and I hiked the Tour de Mont Blanc around Mont Blanc, the highest mountain in Europe, and Parker was one of those that came with us.
Hi, I'm Parker, and we've laid out all the stuff that we took on the Tour de Mont Blanc so we can help you pack.
And we hope to help you pack a bag that has only 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms of stuff in it, although Parker's bag probably had more than that.
Everything was really important, I assure you.
So even though the Tour de Mont Blanc does go through wilderness sometimes, it's not a very remote trip, and there's huts and refugios along the way. So that means you don't really need to carry a tent or a full sleeping bag or a stove or all your food, because you can sleep at the huts and eat the food there. Of course, you can camp in the Tour de Mont Blanc, and that's the cheapest way to do it. You'll save a lot of money that way. But the easiest way to do the Tour de Mont Blanc and to keep your pack as light as possible is to take advantage of the huts. Let's talk about backpacks. So I brought an Osprey pack on the trip. This is the Atmos. This one's a little bigger than what you need. You probably only need a pack that's around 45 liters. But a bigger pack, of course, can work too. Because you're not carrying all your food and stuff that you carry for a wilderness trip, the pack just doesn't need to be that big. The most important thing is to make sure that you have a backpack that fits you really well and that you've learned how to adjust the straps correctly. If you do that, you'll be a lot more comfortable while you're hiking.
Let's talk about footwear. Hank wore some Salomon hiking shoes, some hiking boots. You can potentially wear Trailrunners, but we found that it got really cold when we were up in some of the higher mountain passes, and you want to really think about what side trips you're doing. The actual official Tour de Mont Blanc trail is really well graded, but some of the side trips had a lot of slipping and sliding, and so I took normal tennis shoes thinking that that would be fine, and it was sort of disastrous for a couple days. I was just sliding all over the place. It took me way longer. And when we were going to Robert Blanc. Yeah, Robert Blanc in particular, but even some of the stuff on the regular trail, the day coming in, like if it's just too steep, it was like I was wearing skis. And so in one of those little towns, got these. They're La Sportiva hiking shoes, and they have a Gore-Tex lining, and they were really great. It was sort of a game changer for me because we did end up hiking through a fair amount of snow. And then also I wasn't slipping and sliding, and I felt a little more comfortable taking on some of the less manicured trails. I'm definitely having a glass of wine after that. I haven't been hiking for all that long, but this is probably my 5th backpacking trip, I think. But there are things about it that make it, I guess, a little nicer than some of the other ones. We're staying in refugios, we're eating really good food. So another kind of shoe that a lot of people like to bring is a hut shoe, so that when they get to the hut, they don't have to wear their hiking boots in the hut. So, which I think is a good idea, but on the Tour de Mont Blanc, all the refugios that we stayed in provided Crocs hut shoes for people who got there. So I'm glad we didn't carry hut shoes along the trip, because it would have been extra weight that was basically unnecessary.
I've never seen a view like this from bed, that's for sure. This is so cool. This is such an awesome view to wake up to. Might make all of this near-death experiences yesterday worth it.
So because we stayed in the huts the whole time, we didn't really need to bring sleeping bags. What we did bring were sleeping bag liners. This weighs a lot less than a sleeping bag, but it will keep you clean and a little bit warm at night in the cots that they provide, but they also give you blankets. For my clothes, I just brought 1 pair of zip-off hiking pants, so that way you can hike in pants or shorts depending on the weather. I also brought an extra pair of shorts to change into at night in the huts that were clean, that I didn't hike in, so that was just nice and relaxing. Then I brought a couple t-shirts and a synthetic button-down shirt which I kept one shirt clean that I only wore at huts, and then the other two I wore depending on the weather outside.
So I really like to hike in leggings, and while I think they're the most comfortable for moving around, they're not as sturdy as better hiking pants can be. So I always bring 2 pairs because inevitably every hike I seem to rip one. There was this section of our trip on the way to Robert Blanc where I got really scared and it was slippery, so I sat down and just ripped my pants as I was sliding down the trail. And so to counter that issue, I always just have an extra pair. And then also your second pair can be cleaner clothes that you use when you get to the huts, because having something to change into that feels a little bit cleaner when you get to the huts is really nice. It feels like such a luxury when you're out there. So I like to take the Lululemon underwear with me. I bring 3 pairs and wash one each night in the sink, and so I always have clean underwear, and they're just really lightweight and they dry really quickly.
I like the Exofficio boxer briefs. I tried a lot of different underwear for hiking, and I find that those boxer briefs are really the most comfortable that I've tried while going on long trips.
For tops, I like to bring one like running tank that has a built-in bra, just so that it saves a little weight, and when it's warm I have something to wear. I also like to bring 2 t-shirts and 1 sports bra, like just regular sports bra. I usually sleep in whichever t-shirt is cleanest, and then the other shirt is just another option for days when I don't want to wear stuff that's as clingy. And then I just bring really lightweight pajama shorts, just so that they dry quickly and don't take up too much space. We both usually hike with 3 pairs of socks. One like Smartwool thick hiking sock, especially for the days when it's cold or hanging out at the hut, and then a lighter Smartwool hiking sock for days when you're not as high up. And then also for the warm days, just a pair of like running socks. So just make sure, obviously, like it's not cotton and you can sweat in whatever you're bringing.
And remember, there'll be at least 1 or 2 chances on your trip to do laundry, so you don't necessarily have to have clean clothes for every day, and you shouldn't, because that's too heavy.
The issue with doing laundry in most of the refugios is space. There's just not a lot of space to spread out and wash a ton of stuff, but so we got a hotel room and used all that space to lay out our laundry and did it at once. But you can get more hotel rooms than we chose to, and also the refugios have private rooms that you can rent if you're willing to spend more, and there you obviously have a little more space to spread out.
Here we are, we've made it back into France.
It's so cold.
Woo! It's freezing rain! So I'm sorry to say this, but it will rain on your Tour de Mont Blanc. Over the course of 12 days, it's unlikely that it's not gonna rain in a big range of mountains like that. So you should definitely bring a rain jacket with you. That's a really good rain jacket. And then also to keep warm when you stop hiking or when you're at the huts, I also brought a thin but warm synthetic insulation layer. And you can also use the rain jacket as a extra layer to keep you warm on especially cold days. Also, you should almost certainly have a rain cover for your pack with you, unless you have a waterproof pack. We're here at the top of Col Ferret, and we're just about to start heading into Switzerland, we think, shortly.
It's really cold, let's get off this mountain. Almost every day on the Tour de Mont Blanc, you hike from valleys where things can be quite warm up into mountain passes where there's often snow, or at the very least it's really cold. And so I found more than other trips that having access to many layers was really helpful, especially because I would do things like get really warm as we were hiking and going along, and then we would hit a harder mountain section where I was going a little bit slower and it was getting colder, and then all of a sudden I would be freezing. So I like to take a pullover, like a fleece that I can wear in the huts, and then also acts as a second layer, and then a jacket that's pretty warm, and then obviously a rain jacket. So I just have some options.
Tough day, but we're continuing on, and everyone's making fun of me that I'm wearing 2 hats, but that's okay. It's warm.
When you're up there, you definitely want to make sure that you have a nice knit winter hat to keep you warm. This is one of the easiest ways to control your body temperatures, to take one of these on and off. In addition, I also brought glove liners to keep my hands warm when it got really cold. I didn't bring heavy mountaineering gloves because it never got that cold, and if you're doing it in the spring or summer or fall, it's probably fine. So glove liners should save you some weight, but still keep you warm enough. But it's also really sunny quite a lot too, and it can be hot down in the valleys. So to fight the sun, you should also have some type of sun hat, like a cap like this that I wore, and sunscreen, as well as sunglasses, and a sunglasses case so you don't break your sunglasses like I always manage to do. So you can get water at basically any refugio along the way, so there's plenty of places to get water, but you're still going to want to carry some water obviously in between the huts. And so we carried camelbacks on the trip, but camelbacks do weigh a little bit. They're about 260 grams. You can also choose to bring a Nalgene bottle, which weighs about 180 grams, so it's significantly less than a camelback, although not quite as convenient. The lightest thing you can do is take a liter disposable plastic bottle just like this. It weighs only 36 grams, which is significantly less than a camelback or a Nalgene. And you can refill it along the way. Over 12 days, one plastic bottle works fine.
I've strapped up my knee this morning because I was having a little bit of knee pain yesterday afternoon on the downhill. It's got lateral support. It's got this hole so you can tickle my knee. It's the knee tickling hole. Hey!
My basic philosophy on trips like this that are not in the deep wilderness is that if something really bad goes wrong, then you're going to find help immediately and go to a hospital. So you don't need to bring that much first aid stuff on a trip like this, but of course I do bring some first aid. Moleskin, because people get blisters on these treks all the time, and it's nice to have a way to give them some relief, or Compeed works well. I also bring a pair of nail scissors that you can use to cut your nails and also cut the moleskin. Needle tweezers can be used to pull out anything that gets into your skin, like a cactus spine or...
No cactuses on the Tour de Mont Blanc.
Did you say they were?
0, none.
Well, whatever gets into your skin, like a splinter.
If you hike from the Tour de Mont Blanc to the desert, they'll be great for you.
As for medicine, I bring ibuprofen, which helps relieve muscle soreness, and Difen or Benadryl, which can be used for a whole bunch of different things, but especially any type of allergic reaction you have, and it can also help you sleep at night. Oh, and I also have a very small Leatherman knife that I keep in the first aid kit. You never know when that might come in handy.
I've never heard such sounds.
Yeah.
Oh, this is...
It's like if you took a helicopter engine and then ground it or something.
So it's day 2 of the trip. I did some snoring last night, unfortunately.
I think it was similar to a bear's mating call.
Earplugs are also included in this, and I would highly recommend. Some of us snore. Hank snores a lot. And you never know who's going to be in those really crowded spaces. So if that bothers you at all, then you definitely want earplugs.
The last piece of my first aid kit is a PLB, or a personal locator beacon, some type of satellite-based emergency device or other similar device that lets you call for emergency services if something goes wrong. The Tour de Mont Blanc is close to civilization most of the time, so you may think it's not necessary, but the great thing about these things is if you, for example, break your leg, of course you're not going to die on the Tour de Mont Blanc, you're so close to towns and cities. But having a PLB can make your life a lot more pleasant if that happens, because you can call emergency services immediately as opposed to waiting for someone to come along and find you.
It's like you know that from experience. We've made it to our refugio for the night.
The good news is it's dry in the cave. The bad news is it's a cave.
So one of the great things, obviously, about the Tour de Mont Blanc is that you're not camping every night unless you choose to. So the refugios have things like showers and sinks. So that means your toiletries are really different than what you might pack for a normal camping trip. So this is obviously going to vary by person, and you want to keep the weight as little as possible, but it's important to think about like what are the basic things that you need, and then also for you, what's going to help you feel comfortable when you get to a refugio at the end of the day. So if there are one or two like luxury items that will help you just feel immediately like you are done hiking and that you're cozied up, those could be really great. So I like to bring, I mean, obviously, so deodorant is one of the things that you might not bring if you don't have access to showers, but you'll have access to a shower almost every day. So you can bring just like a travel size deodorant, and obviously like toothbrush and toothpaste, please. And then, and hand sanitizer. And then what I do with my toiletries for shower is I just take shampoo, and I use the shampoo as my body wash too. I just find it to be a way to save weight. And then lotion. We on our trip spent a couple nights in hotels, so I just use conditioner on those nights. If your hair really needs conditioner, you might want to include that, but I found just having two really reduced my weight. And then also, one thing I didn't take that I really regret not taking was a brush. I was trying to reduce the weight, and I thought that my hair would just be in a bun the whole time anyway, but honestly, it just got grosser and grosser, and over the course of the 12 days, it just gets bigger and weirder, and it was honestly a little bit uncomfortable. And the wet brush makes a mini version that's actually pretty lightweight, and so that was something I really wish I would have had that I didn't. Some people like to take razors. I didn't, and it didn't bother me, but if you're someone for whom shaving once in a while would be a big way to feel more comfortable, then Venus or Gillette makes a really small travel Venus one. Just make sure you ditch the case because it's really heavy and bulky, and put it in a Ziploc bag or something. It's a really small and a great option. I don't take makeup on hikes. I did.
Liar.
I did for the first couple because Hank's like sticking a camera in my face, and then he's like, what? You don't want, you need makeup? But honestly, the packaging is so heavy and you don't need it. And I get way too tired on trips like that to even bother putting it on.
Don't do it, it's too heavy.
If your boyfriend's gonna film you, you have every right to take mascara. One of the things that makes the Tour de Mont Blanc different is that you're going to refugios each night, which means that you have access to put away your trash at the end of each day for the most part, which means that while on super remote trips, women have to consider what they're gonna do if they're gonna be on their period. But on these trips, if you normally use tampons, it's not as inconvenient to still just do that. If you're like me and you need glasses or contacts, I use disposable contacts on the Tour de Mont Blanc and trips like it. You'll be able to throw away your trash, so you'll get lighter as you go along. And also, if something happens to your contacts and you don't have a backup pair, you probably won't find another place to get new contacts.
So as for electronics, I recommend bringing an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy, a newer phone, because you can use that to replace a camera, read books, because you can install an ebooks app, you can listen to music and audiobooks, and you can use it for navigation if you download the Gaia GPS app. Plus the phone charger, and then I also bring a small extension cord with 3 outlets on the end, so that if the outlets are far away from your bed in the Refugio, you still have a way to plug in, and with 3 outlets, it allows other people to use the outlet even if you're plugged in, which is just generous. And if you're not from Europe, don't forget to bring a plug adapter to stick on the end of your extension cord so that you can plug into European outlets.
The hotel I booked for tonight is 122 kilometers from here.
We thought
Because
it was
I am
like
a
right.
very stupid person.
We thought it was like right here.
Gotta book another hotel.
Make sure if you're using your phone to navigate that you download all of the maps and stuff ahead of time. Internet can be a little spotty and unreliable, so as can phone service. So if you have a phone that you've enabled to have phone service in Europe, you will still go days without it, although you will get phone service at random points probably. Some of the Refugios say they have internet, but at any point that could not be working that day. It's all a little bit unreliable.
It's also really nice to have a headlamp with you. Both if you want to do a sunrise hike, it can come in real handy if you're going to hike in the dark for a while, but also for safety reasons, I always recommend that people have a headlamp because you never know when you're going to get stuck outside after dark. And if your phone's dead, you can't use the flashlight on it. Plus, it's much easier to wear a headlamp than to carry a phone as a flashlight for many kilometers. And then I keep all my electronics in a small Sea to Summit Ultrasil dry bag. These are very lightweight, but they also provide you with extra insurance if it rains to make sure your electronics don't get wet.
We're about to cross into Italy. It's just right over there.
No, that's France. Italy's that way.
Here's France. We're about to cross into Italy, which is over there.
Kind of, a bit to your left.
So you can use your phone and the Gaia GPS app for navigation, but I also highly recommend taking a guidebook like this one called The Tour of Mont Blanc by Kev Reynolds. There are others too, but we found this book to be really good and really helpful along the way, partly because he tells you all the route alternatives in case the weather's not good, and he tells you about more adventurous routes to take if you are feeling energetic one day. And he also just gives you an idea of what services the Refugios provide and where they are, and a lot of other very detailed information, which is just really nice to have along the way because it helps you plan out each day really well.
Obviously, you'll want to bring your wallet. You will go through towns that have ATMs, so having an ATM card, if it works in Europe, will enable you to get cash when you need it. Make sure though that you keep your wallet in a really safe place like your jacket pocket. That seems really obvious, but we found a lot of like passports and cards and things like that at Refugios. On average, you're gonna spend about 50 euros a night on the Refugio, assuming that you're staying in one of the dorms with lots of people. And that also includes breakfast and dinner at the Refugio. And then your lunch will cost around 10 euros. If you're trying to save money, then you should bring your own lunch or plan and stock up at the grocery stores when you go through the towns. But most Refugios, if not all, also offer a sack lunch option that is about 12 euros a person, and this allows you to not really think about it, but if you're going to do this, just make sure, because we almost ran into this problem, that you tell them you're gonna want to buy a bag lunch immediately when you get there, or tell them ahead of time if you can, because they run out and you don't want to find yourself without lunch on a long hiking day. Plan on taking a fair amount of cash with you, and probably more cash than you anticipate needing. Some of the Refugios don't take cards, and we were a bit caught off guard by that. And so our cash was depleted pretty quickly, and it can take you several days to get to a town that's big enough to have an ATM, so it could be a problem for you. Also, don't forget that you cross into Switzerland on this trip, so while Italy and France use the euro, you'll need Swiss francs for when that happens. A lot of the communities along the Tour de Mont Blanc are ski communities, so some have pretty nice lodging. And if you want to treat yourself or have a little more space for a few nights, you can stay in hotels, but that's usually more expensive.
Flying Cats was good. I think my favorite one was 99.
99 Luftballons.
It's a trick-taking game. I'm a little bit disappointed Hank didn't bring any board games, but I can kind of see why.
As for luxury items, I really like to bring board games on trips because it's fun to play with friends and also a good way to meet people. On the Tour de Mont Blanc, because it's 12 days long, I didn't bring any board games, but I did bring a deck of cards which we played all the time, and so that was well worth it. We also brought a lot of snacks from home. We're big fans of the hiking snacks at Trader Joe's, and it was really nice having some snacks from home along our trip. However, there are plenty of wonderful French bakeries and Italian restaurants along this trip, and so if you don't want to bring any food from home, you don't need to, and you might find that the food in Europe is better than what you bring anyway.
Tiffany, what do you think of all the snacks so far?
They're really great. And our favorite part?
Where there were blueberry all around us.
Yeah, blueberries.
Yeah.
Welcome to the native hunting ground, pizza. Come with me on a journey through time and space.
Leftovers from lunch. In a homemade box, kind of.
Remarkably well constructed.
I know. It was pretty straightforward. Would you like a slice?
It's space food.
On the TMB, I learned how to snack. I don't know where we can get snack clothes from. I have to figure it out.
One other thing to consider if you're a vegetarian like me is that while the food at the Refugios is much better than any food you're gonna have just hiking on your own in the wilderness, they don't have a ton of vegetarian options. So I felt like I ate the same thing for 12 days.
Cheese, just cheese all the time.
A lot of, I mean, seriously, like just cheese, which I love cheese, but I met my limit. Like I found my edge, which I really didn't think I had with how much cheese I could have. And then also like quiches. There were a lot of quiches.
You
and
ate a lot of
soups.
quiche.
Oh, so much quiche. The snacks from home were a good way for me to introduce some variety into my diet, which isn't required, but it can be a really important luxury.
In addition, we also recommend carrying hiking poles and using them. It saves some wear and tear on your knees and can make it easier both going uphill and downhill. So that's it. If you stick to our basic inventory, you'll definitely be under 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms, which is where you want to be because heavier packs on trips like this just make the trips more miserable. So the lighter you can go, the happier you'll be, I promise.
Yeah, and I mean, don't forget to go with great friends. That's the only other thing. It was so much fun to go and travel and experience this with the group that we did, and we met amazing people on the way. So just be open and have so much fun.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to see where I go next.
The warm-up. The hiking warm-up.
Okay, everybody, stop jumps!
Have you guys seen this?
Stop jumps! Oh my god, I found this is terrible.
Yoga with patch.
Stop!
Oh my god!
Now my knee hurts.